There's definitely an epic battle going on right now on the spiritual level. Clues and signs and things all around us. All we got to do is look. Like I said, it's hidden in plain sight.
We would like to bring you a message from the First Lady of the United States, Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Good evening and congratulations, Walter, on receiving the World Federalist Association's Global Governance Award. For more than a generation in America, it wasn't the news until Walter Cronkite told us it was the news. Every night at 6 o'clock, we welcomed you into our living rooms and listened as you explained the complex events of the day.
World government is the structure necessary for global justice.
I'm in a position to speak my mind, and by God, I'm going to do it. First, we Americans are going to have to yield up some of our sovereignty. That's going to be, to many, a bitter pill. Today, we must develop federal structures on a global level. To deal with world problems, we need a system of enforceable world law, a democratic federal world government. Most important, we should sign and ratify the Treaty for a Permanent International Criminal Court. Pat Robertson has written in a book a few years ago that we should have a world government, but only when the Messiah arrives. He wrote, and literally, any attempt to achieve world order before that time must be the work of the devil. Well, join me. I'm glad to sit here at the right hand of Satan.
When the deception comes, if you're not a born-again believer, you'll be swept away with it. The deception will be greater than you ever imagined in your life. It is going to be profound as to what happens.
Welcome to CERN, the European Laboratory for Particle Physics. Today, almost 17,000 researchers and engineers come to CERN to investigate the universe, how it works, what it is made of, using some of the largest and most complex pieces of the equipment in the world. In the Large Hadron Collider, we smash particles together at just below the speed of light. By doing this, the physics community has produced some fundamental discoveries. In 2012, we identified the Higgs boson, which is the manifestation of a field that gives mass to all other fundamental particles in the universe. This type of research results in huge IT and computing challenges. Things happen very fast around here. In the Large Hadron Collider, particles collide at approximately 1 billion times per second. Our data analysis needs are so great that we need to distribute the LHC data around the world to over 170 data centers and laboratories that collaborate with us. The continuous program of upgrades and consolidations to the Large Hadron Colliders and the experiments at CERN will result in the coming years to greatly increase the ICT and computing demands. This is why we keep looking at next-generation technologies like quantum computing, and why we have joined the IBM Quantum Network.
Using quantum machine learning algorithms, we're exploring how to pinpoint these complex events in a way that is much more efficient than even our fastest supercomputers, which is exciting for us because we design and build quantum computers to tackle precisely this kind of seemingly impossible challenge.
At the heart of our quantum computers are what we call qubits, the basic unit of quantum information. Unlike the bits within a classical computer that can just manipulate ones or zeros, qubits can hold much richer information. We can exploit these to calculate the boundaries around interesting events more efficiently using many more dimensions that can be visualized or handled by a classical computer. Qubits are made by trapping and controlling tiny bits of the universe, in our case, pairs of electrons. So in a way, we're using tiny parts of the universe that we do understand to help us find the other tiny parts of the universe that we don't understand.
Quantum computing may play a very significant role in helping us expand our knowledge beyond the standard model of physics. This means investigating the many open questions related to dark matter, dark energy, the relationships between gravity and quantum mechanics, and more. Quantum computing might not provide all the answers, but it may help us see the universe more clearly and ask better questions.
Say these people are evil, and everything about this is very questionable. I mean, as you watch this clip, and if you know what happened and you know the backstory here, like, look at this shirt, the front and the back, the symbolism everywhere, in the set, the lighting, everything. What I mean by these people is the industry, the people who are running all this, not necessarily all the people in the crowd. A lot of these people are just lured and deceived. Some don't have the spiritual discernment to be able to see these things and understand it for what it really is. The eyes and the ears are windows to the soul. The Bible tells us to guard very carefully what we allow in and what we focus our attention on. Why do you think everything that they use is called programming? You know, some people said that there were videos of people that were at this concert that have disappeared that I can't find anymore, talking about this. Really felt the energy in this concert and around this whole situation while they were there. It felt evil and almost demonic. I don't remember the exact number, but I believe it was like 7-8 people died at this concert. Like I said, look at all the symbolism in this, on this set, and just listen and watch him and his demeanor. You see the mount where they came down, the fallen came down and ascended. You see the portal in the middle of the mountain. There's things on his shirt with a portal, things coming through. The back has the eye, the all-seeing eye. Tons of symbolism everywhere. They're clearly showing you who they serve and what their purpose is and who they're with. Stuff's weird, man. It's like he's ignoring stuff. You hear people screaming and yelling for him, but he's just like, let's just keep moving. Just ignore it. Like, no big deal. And here it's almost like the guys say something to him, those two guys, and he's like, nah.
Y'all know what y'all came to do. Chase,
you know what we came to do now? Put your hands up while you unknowingly serve Satan.
I want to make this motherfucking ground shake, goddammit. Whoa. Here we go.
Corrupting souls.
Here we go. Here we go. 5, 7, 4. Yeah. Pull out yourself. Pull out the ground. Last night had me down in the back of a coast, gon' be sunshades and a pill go. But some gold can't take my soul, go fuck yourself. Mama, she, you know I really need right now. Can't figure when the lights down. No way niggas can pipe down. With the head, kinda try to let the night down. Gotta let the light bang on the ceiling. Like a porn star, big boy. Let me feel it then. Talk to him. Anybody know? Whoa. Better never feel it. Might hit your last. Yeah. The beat's so bad. I really wanna. Yeah. And I ain't kidding away, but that my mama see the.
We're dealing with deeply insane people. from a consciousness point of view, but intellectually bright enough to understand how the human psyche works and how you can manipulate it. Because when there's a few of you and you want to control billions, you have to do it by manipulating the perceptions of the billions so they act and respond in ways that suit your agenda. You can't, well, they want to go to this next stage through connecting the human brain to artificial intelligence, which they're openly talking about. But up to this point, they simply don't have the numbers to impose their will upon the population, because not enough of them, even taking into account the law enforcement and the government administration and all this stuff, there's still only a fraction of them compared with the population they want to control and dictate to. So the way they do it is they manipulate the perceptions of the people so they act in ways that suit the agenda. So they're psychopaths, so they act like psychopaths. And in terms of who they are, well, that's a very long story. But I have taken this back to at least to ancient Babylon and Sumer, and you can go back further and into other parts of the world as well. But you can follow a network which you can follow it out of Babylon, you can follow it out of Egypt too, and into Rome, where they became the Roman Empire ultimately. Wherever this network has gone through history, an empire has followed, because that's what they are. They're acquisitive. They wanted global power, and they went in stages expanding that global power. So this cult has intergenerational families which continue on through the generations. So one era, people die, but the next generation comes in to take over, and it's a long plan to get where they pretty much are now, which is global centralization of power. So we had the Roman Empire, of course, and then this center of this cult moved up into Northern Europe, and massively centered in London. And what we call the City of London is the financial district, which has its own police force, its own government, etc., is a massive global center to this day of this cult, which, of course, as we've discussed already, uses control of finance and money to dictate the choice, thus the freedom or lack of it, of the population. And when they settled their center in Britain, what do we have then? We had the British Empire, and we had these other European empires as well. And what that period of colonialism was this cult going global. And they went off, and what did they say about the British Empire? The sun never set on it. It was so vast. But you had all the other European empires as well: the French, the Belgian, the German, etc., the Dutch, and you're pretty much spanning the world in terms of colonialism. And then we had this massive sleight of hand when it appeared that the colonial powers were rolling back and giving freedom to their former colonies. But that's not what happened. They exchanged overt, in-your-face dictatorship, which overwhelmingly has a finite life. It may take a long time, but it has a finite life because the people under control can see their controllers. The exchange that took place with the apparent colonial rollback went from overt control to covert control. And they left out in these former colonies this secret society network and the families that run it in each country, because this global cult is like it's like a holographic web. One of the great traits of holograms is that every part of the hologram is a smaller part of the whole. And this is how this cult works. It's holographic. You have a global network, and then you have subsidiary networks in each country. And those subsidiary networks have the role of imposing in their sphere of influence the agenda dictated from the center. And that's how you get this situation of pretty much the same response, identical in so many cases, response to the same situation. And so in each country, these subsidiary networks have the role of controlling that country's government, any political party that has a chance of forming a government, and a lot of the rest as well. Controlling finance, crucial, the banking system, the financial system in that country, which is why the City of London is so important in terms of Britain. Controlling the major corporations, and so the various subsidiaries in these different countries are running the banking system in those countries in accordance with the centrally dictated agenda. And so you have organizations like the Bank for International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland, which was created by these families, the Rockefellers, etc., where the heads of the various central banks meet regularly to coordinate policy. And it's all centrally dictated, but you have these subsidiaries playing it out in each country. And so then you had the further expansion of this cult's power through what is called globalization. Globalization is what? The centralization of power in every area of our lives. Globalization, we gave it a name eventually, is simply the ongoing centralization of power in the banking system and these other areas of human life that this cult is generating, because it's a simple equation. If the few want more and more control over the many, they have to centralize decision making. If you look at the history of this period I'm talking about, first of all, people were in a tribal situation where the people in the tribe were making the decisions for the tribe. Then lots of the tribes were brought together under what we call nations. Now a few people at the center of the nation are dictating to all that group of tribes that form the nation. And then in the European Union, of course, there's this bringing together of countries under centralized control. Now all the former tribes of all the former nations are now dictated from Brussels by people who are simply unelected. And although Britain is supposed to have left the European Union, it's still welded to so much of its dictating of the way things operate. And so the next stage, which is where it's been heading all along, I've been writing about this for 30 years, is to create a world government, a world central bank, which would dictate all global finance, a world currency. I've been writing about this, mate, since 1992-93. That the idea was to create a single global currency and bring an end to cash.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Olson, how many people have been charged with crimes of violence in connection with the events on January 6th?
Senator, I'm not sure exactly how many have been charged with crimes of violence. I know that there are many.
Okay. How many have been charged with nonviolent crimes?
I don't have the numbers of people charged, whether at the state or federal level. I know that.
Okay. How many people are currently incarcerated concerning the events of January 6th?
I don't know the number of people incarcerated. Again, I know that
how many? Okay, let me ask you that. Look, with limited time, so I don't want you to filibuster. You either know the answer or you don't. How many people have been placed in solitary confinement concerning the events of January 6th?
I don't have any information about that, Senator.
You know, Mr. Olson, I will say it was sad. Senator Lee just asked you about this. Back in June of 2021, Senator Lee and I and two other senators sent a letter to the Department of Justice asking these questions, asking about the differential prosecutions. Let me ask you, during 2020, Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots all across the country, there were over 700 police officers injured by Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots. How many people have been charged with crimes of violence concerning those riots all across the country?
I don't have information on how many. I would say, hundreds of people have been charged, as Ms. Sanborn.
You would say, but you don't know. When we asked you why the Biden Department of Justice has such wildly disparate standards, going after January 6th, targeting some people who committed crimes of violence, and anyone who commits crimes of violence should be prosecuted, but also targeting a lot of nonviolent individuals, we asked you, why is it that you won't target the rioters and terrorists who firebomb cities across this country? The answer we got from the Department of Justice was shameful. On October 22nd, you came back and said, quote, "The department has dedicated investigative and prosecutorial resources commensurate with the significance of these events." By significance, I guess it means the political benefit to the Biden White House. And I will tell you, there are a great many Americans who are understandably deeply concerned about the politicization of the Department of Justice under President Joe Biden. It has been 218 days since we sent you that letter. DOJ refused to answer the letter. Today, when Senator Lee and I asked you about it, your answer to every damn question is, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. You're under oath. I want to turn to the FBI. How many FBI agents or confidential informants actively participated in the events of January 6th?
Sir, I'm sure you can appreciate that I can't go into the specifics of sources and methods.
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants actively participate in the events of January 6th? Yes or no?
Sir, I can't answer that.
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants commit crimes of violence on January 6th?
I can't answer that, sir.
Did any FBI agents or FBI informants actively encourage and incite crimes of violence on January 6th?
Sir, I can't answer that.
Ms. Sadburn, who is Ray Epps?
I'm aware of the individual, sir. I don't have the specific background to him.
Well, there are a lot of people who are understandably very concerned about Mr. Epps. On the night of January 5th, 2021, Epps wandered around the crowd that had gathered. And there's video out there of him chanting, "Tomorrow, we need to get into the Capitol, into the Capitol." This was strange behavior, so strange that the crowd began chanting, "Fed, Fed, 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 Fed." Ms. Sandburn, was Ray Epps a Fed?
Sir, I cannot answer that question.
The next day, on January 6th, Mr. Epps is seen whispering to a person, and 5 seconds later, 5 seconds after he's whispering to a person, that same person begins to forcibly tear down the barricades. Did Mr. Epps urge them to tear down the barricades?
Sir, similar to the other answers, I cannot answer that.
Shortly thereafter, the FBI put out a public post seeking information on individuals connected with violent crimes on January 6th. Among those individuals, in the bottom there, is Mr. Epps. The FBI publicly asked for information, offering cash rewards leading to information leading to the arrest. This was posted, and then, sometime later, magically, Mr. Epps disappeared from the public posting. According to public records, Mr. Epps has not been charged with anything. No one's explained why a person videoed urging people to go to the Capitol, a person whose conduct was so suspect the crowd believed he was a Fed, would magically disappear from the list of people the FBI was looking at. Ms. Sandburn, a lot of Americans are concerned that the federal government deliberately encouraged illegal and violent conduct on January 6th. My question to you, and this is not an ordinary law enforcement question, this is a question of public accountability. Did federal agents or those in service of federal agent actively encourage violent and criminal conduct on January 6th?
Not to my knowledge, sir.
It's not always obvious. It's not always plain. And today, as I've said before, we live in a post-truth era, an era when the truth just doesn't matter anymore. It's a narrative that counts, and the narrative can just be the lie, and it will be believed. Leaders set the tone. We follow leaders, don't we? And when leaders start to go in certain directions, there'll always be people that will follow, regardless of whether it's right or wrong. We're going to need boldness more than ever before. It says here in Ezekiel 3, verses 8 and 9, "Behold, I have made thy face strong against their faces, and thy forehead strong against their foreheads. As an adamant harder than flint have I made thy forehead. Fear them not, neither be dismayed at their looks, though they be a rebellious house." The importance of hardening ourselves, not hardening our hearts, but hardening our resolve against the evil. Let's just be aware as we go through these days, as we watch. I wouldn't recommend watching the news, but being aware certainly of what's being said so that we can pray into things and understand what God wants for us in these times. I pray today that God will open your eyes even further and the eyes of your heart so that you can discern the times we're in, because the beast is in the church and his spirit is rising.